for entertainment purposes only. And if you want true legal advice, contact your own lawyer.
Hey, you know what? Nevada. Nevada is the first state to ban employer drug testing for weed.
I like the Amargosa
Only for employers.
Valley.
Yes, for employers. And we like the Amargosa Valley too. They're near Las Vegas. Is by the way, Amargosa Valley is one of our first affiliates to ever join us. So what's happening is now employers, they can do drug testing. Don't get me wrong under this, and they fought, and the legislator fought about how to do this, and they've kind of compromised. And this new bill coming down is going to say basically you can still drug test. Now there's certain type of employers that can drug test for marijuana also, the ones that are about safety, like
firefighters, EMTs,
truckers.
Yes,
they can do that.
Any job, they described it, any job that could adversely affect the safety of others, those folks are still going to be subject to drug testing.
Yes. Now, but this law says, as an employer, if you drug test and you find that this employee has got marijuana in their system, and apparently they're claiming that, believe it or not, we have a lot of marijuana listener people out there. We do have an active listenership that are marijuana people. But what they say is sometimes marijuana can be 3 days in your system after you use it, and you're still not high. Now, I'm not a marijuana guy, so I don't know that. I know Cal. No, we got to be careful. Cal's not, but we always make fun of him because he's got a dispensary. One of the only drive-through dispensaries in the country is near his house. It's an actual drive-through, and actually it shuts right, Cal, as it pulls in. The door's shut behind you. It's not like you sit in the line.
It's like a Sally port kind of a thing. Yeah, like a Sally port, meaning you pull in and then the secure transaction takes place, apparently.
Right.
I mean, and
a lot of smoke going down.
Yeah, and I've been on many a drug raid as a news reporter. I've been on many a marijuana raid,
right,
but have never partaken and never.
Our first show, our first podcast is about the new marijuana laws in California. Go check it out.
That is right. That was one of the first shows that I did for Radio Law Talk. And I think the Sallyport idea that you're talking about, I think it's a good idea for the protection of the consumer, because if you're going through a drive-through, I can see, some hoodlum out there wanting to get some dope. If they don't have that, would say, look, we just attack the guy in the car the minute they hand it through the window.
Right.
Exactly.
Nobody will be able to catch us. They won't come out of here. They won't do here. So if you close the doors, nobody's in there. It's just safer.
What that is, those of you who don't know, a Sally doors is you pull up. It's like a garage, and the doors close on each side. Do their transaction, the doors open.
And there may also be this may also be to comply with a regulation, because if the regulation is that it has to occur within the walls, confines of the business. And if they have an exception so that when the walls go down for the Sallyport, now you are inside the business.
Well, that's a really good point.
That's fine. And when it comes up, you're not. So now they're complying with the law.
So here's the interesting thing about that this Vegas, and I've put a lot of different notes. It's AB 132. The interesting thing is as you said, it is the exception is anyone that is still they're subject to it if it could adversely affect the safety of others. Now, define that. Does that include, at a water park, lifeguards?
Sure.
Well,
I don't know. Does it? But does it?
Yes.
Does it include lawyers representing you in court?
Well, I think it's the physical safety of others. If it doesn't, my guess is that is the implication.
Okay.
But take the lifeguard though.
Yeah.
So if the lifeguards, for example, are trained in emergency EMT procedures, CPR, all of that,
yes,
they are quite literally the first responders. If somebody is found face down in a pool, I would say yes. I would think that they would be.
I mean, I used to obviously work in the magical world of television, and one time we had a control room operator who liked to tipple a bit. He would drink liquid intoxicants. Well, nobody's life was in danger, but he did an awful job, and he was relieved from his opportunity to serve until he got rehab and got cleaned up. So there got to be other circumstances.
Not now.
Has this passed, or is it just passed the legislature?
It is the Nevada bill. It goes into effect January 2020.
I got to tell you, that's just crazy.
Okay, that's not the only thing. Now wait. Now here's the interesting part of it that I see as a personal injury lawyer is the issue of businesses now being able to get what? Insurance.
Yes.
Exactly.
Think about the insurance companies out there wondering, if there's marijuana in this business and these people are able to use it, or you can at least test for it, then am I going to insure that business?
What's the legal standard for putting people's safety in jeopardy, Todd?
Well, here's one thing that I will say. I didn't see this in the bill, but I would be surprised if it is not. I would think that testing of any employee is probably still legal after an accident, when they're trying to determine whether or not impairment was the cause of the accident. Forklift driver tips over, truck driver does something. So I think that is there. It's not that's a sort of a measure to find out what the impairment is, and if you test positive, then you've got that problem. The other thing I think that's what driving this bill is the type of test that they're using to determine whether marijuana is in the system. Most of the time, it's a urine test. And when you test positive on a urine test, that is true. You can't tell if it's how long the marijuana has been there, because the only thing that pops up is the ingredient in marijuana that will remain in your system for up to 30 days. But if you do a blood test, they can test for what's called delta-9 THC. The delta-9 THC only stays in your system about 4 hours, and that is the stuff that gets you high. And so that is different. Well, nobody does a blood test for employment screenings. They always send you down and go tell you to urinate in a cup.
Right.
And that's it.
And who wants to be stuck?
And doing a blood test, people would argue, is too invasive. Well, I don't want to be your pin cushion just because I want to get a job at Walmart. And so they have this problem there. So the only way they can get around it is we're going to keep the urine test, and we'll make this accommodation. You can't test for it.
You know who's kind of was against this? Again, this was all back and forth during the debate. That was really leery of it is the union workers. The union was a little bit weird. I mean, some are back and forth, but was a little weary of it. And because, like I said, they're not going to be able to get insurance for their union members, or the workers' compensation may be an issue at that point. So there's a lot of ramifications. But this is the first state, to my knowledge, that is going to bring in a testing for marijuana restriction laws. So
I want to clarify one thing, and I know because somebody's going to go out there and read an article and say, well, wait a second. The article that I read said THC stays in your system for only 6 days or a week, and it can be up to 3 months, and that's fine. THC can. It's the delta-9 THC. That's different. In a drug report, it'll say THC, delta-9 THC. The delta-9 THC is what gets you high 4-hour life. Crickets. I just wanted people to know that.
In most people's cases, it can vary depending on your metabolism. Approximately 4 hours.
It's about 4 hours.
Yeah, they gave a statistic. There was a number of articles on it, but this is where was this one? By Harry Chedali what talked about this, and he said as follows: an example of states, 48% of Colorado businesses with defined drug testing policies will fire an employee the second he or she fails a pot test. That's at least out of the Colorado statistic.
What do they think they're gaining in Nevada by doing this? That's my only question. When I hear something like this, I think, okay, what's the upside for the legislator that does this politically, or for the state, or for the employers who backed it? What do they think they're buying with this bill?
I don't know, Cal. I guess the question back to you is, what's the upside of making it legal? I mean, that's the whole point, that they're just following.
Because intoxication on the job is not something any employer would accept, whether the substance with which you are intoxicated is legal or not.
Right. I would agree with that.
Yeah, and again, this gets back to you can test positive for it and not be intoxicated.
I don't think they're distinguishing in this law between CBD that doesn't get you high and THC that does. I think that, again, this is kind of like one of those laws that have come about without real good medical background and information.
Go to the website, radiolawtalk.com. That's radiolawtalk.com.